Well, hey guys, I want to talk about Acts chapter 19 today some more. Paul is in the city of Ephesus in modern day Turkey, and a riot breaks out, and we're going to talk about that, okay? So partway through chapter 19, we've looked at this already. You can go back and watch the previous videos, but just to give you a little context, in verse 19, a group of people, it seems like a large group, who have accepted Christ. We talked about it before. They burn all their old books. They had like these books of witchcraft or some sort of magic sorts of books, and they had become Christians, but they had kept these sorts of things with them. And then in verse 19, they burn it all. And they say, we've completely given up that element of our lives, and we're all in with Jesus. They confess their sin. We talked about superstition and this other stuff. Anything that you add to Jesus plus something else in order to somehow improve your standing or with God or something, that's all superstition. All of it needs to burn. Jesus, period, is all you want. Okay, all you need. So let's see what happens next. Verse 21. Now, after these events, Paul resolved in his spirit to pass through Macedonia and Achaia and go to Jerusalem, saying, after I've been there, I must also see Rome. And having sent into Macedonia two of his helpers, Timothy and Erastus, he stayed himself in Asia for a while. So he's still in Ephesus. Now, about that time, again, this is the same time that all these guys are burning their old religion books, and now they're Christians. About that time, there arose no little disturbance concerning the way, meaning a big disturbance concerning Christians. A man named Demetrius, who was a silversmith, who made silver shrines of Artemis, brought no little business to the craftsmen. And these he gathered together with the workmen in similar trades and said, men, you know that from this business we have our wealth. And you see and hear not only in Ephesus, but also in all of Asia, this Paul has persuaded and turned away a great many people, saying that gods made with hands are not gods. And so he goes on from there and he says, look, we're losing business because of this Paul missionary guy. We're losing business. And they decide to have a big riot, and a big crazy riot breaks out. I'm going to summarize because it's a long section to read, and I hope you hit pause and I hope you read it. But in any case, go back and read that. A big riot happens, and they start shouting, great is Artemis of Ephesus, great is Artemis of Ephesus. Now, if you have certain translations, it will say Diana of Ephesus. That's a Latin name for the goddess Artemis that they worshipped. And they had a big temple for her in Ephesus, a very big one. It was, you might have heard of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the pyramids in Egypt, stuff like that. I don't know all 7 of them. I don't really care. But one of them was the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus. Huge building. It's no longer standing. I think that's a good thing. But it was a huge building. People traveled all over the Greek and Roman empires to get there to worship this goddess named Artemis. And it was a big deal, okay? And they're losing business now because there's too many Christians, and they're mad, and they throw a riot, and they're trying to beat people and all this other stuff. I mean, it's a mess. It's the sort of thing that seems to happen whenever the gospel goes out, and that's what I want to apply into our lives today. When you give your life to Christ, your life is supposed to change. When lots of people in the community give their lives to Christ, the community is supposed to change. Jesus says we're salt of the earth. Well, if there's a lot of us, then the earth should taste different, should taste saltier. It should flavor things differently. And that's what they've learned in Ephesus. Remember, they gave their lives to Christ. Then over a period of time, they kind of grew in their discipleship, and they said, not only do we belong to Christ, but we're going to burn down everything that we used to have. They're not burning down other people's stuff. They're burning their own things. It says that. Verse 19, a number of those who had practiced magic arts brought their books together and burned them in the sight of everyone, and they counted the value of them and came to about 50,000 pieces of silver. They're not causing a riot. The Christians aren't the ones rioting. The Christians are not the ones burning other people's stuff. they're fully repenting, and they're giving their things over, and they're saying, these things don't belong in my life anymore. Even though they're worth money, I'm not even going to sell them and make money off of them because they're sin, and I don't want to make money off of sin. I'm just going to burn them. 50,000 pieces of silver is the value of this stuff. So the Christians in Ephesus are getting serious. Okay? Well, guess what? So are the enemies of Christ in Ephesus. They get serious. This Demetrius guy, who is a silversmith who makes money selling little shrines, little silver statues of Artemis that you're supposed to buy and then worship and bring her home with you. They would travel for just extreme distances to get to this temple in Ephesus, the temple to Artemis. And then they would buy a little silver idol from Demetrius or some other silversmith or coppersmith or somebody, and then they would take it home so they could keep worshiping Artemis from home. That's what they did. And these guys made a ton of money off of it. And now they're seeing all these guys come to know Christ and not only stop buying these sorts of things, but they're burning them. They're destroying it. They're not interested anymore. They have changed their lifestyle entirely. And naturally, these guys that have some money to make or some money to lose in this case get mad and throw a riot about it. I don't like rioting. I don't think it's a good thing. But I tell you what, it means these Christians in Ephesus were serious. And the ones that had rejected Jesus, who said, nope, we like our lifestyle this way, they had to face a reality that Christianity was directly shrinking their market for false gods. And I wonder what would happen if that were true in the world today, if Christians were directly cutting the market down for some of the false gods that we worship. When I say we, I mean we as a nation, as a culture, as a world. We worship a lot of false gods. And when I say worship, I don't mean we bow down to them necessarily, but we spend a ton of money as a people on Hollywood movies that don't glorify Jesus. We spend our money that God gives us the ability to work and earn and save up, and He gives us a choice how we spend it, and we choose often to spend it on things that go against God's purposes and kingdom. Movies and TV shows that are full of cursing, that are full of violence, that glorify robbing banks and murder, that glorify sex outside of marriage. I don't know when the last time I saw a TV show or movie that portrayed healthy Christian, moral, upstanding definition of sexuality. I don't know if I've ever seen one. Probably because if it wanted to portray Christianity correctly, it wouldn't film that stuff and it wouldn't be there at all, and it shouldn't be. It has no place. What if Christians got serious and stopped spending money on any of that? I don't mean spend less. I don't mean skip one movie and see a different one. I mean skip them all. Every one of them, everybody in this country who calls himself a Christian, which depending on your statistics, that's about a quarter of the American population, maybe even a half, depending on how you measure your statistics. But what if every single one of those people said, zero of the sleazy sin will ever enter my house. I will spend $0, 0 cents on movies, on videos, on cable TV networks, on anything that has this sin in it. I will spend 0 on it. What if every single person who calls himself a Christian made that decision? What if every single person who calls himself a Christian had 0 pornography ever in their life? What if every single person who calls himself a Christian refused to participate in these things? 0 participation. And burned and destroyed anything from their previous unsaved lifestyle and got rid of it. I think the market for these sorts of things would drop significantly And if the market drops, the demand is down, the market's down, there's less profit to be made, and a lot of these companies that produce this garbage would go out of business, and then there would be less supply of it. Supply always meets demand. In Ephesus, the demand for false god idols dropped, and so the supply dropped, and so the suppliers got mad. Okay, I hope Hollywood and whatever doesn't riot about it, but they make movies about destruction constantly, and there is a lot of rioting going on. In general, I'm not rooting for riots, but I am rooting for Christians to simply make a stand and do what's right. Period. Like across the board. Zero of this stuff. What if every Christian, just every single Christian, just eliminated cursing from their vocabulary? Just gone. Would that not change the way people talk? If every time somebody dropped a curse word of some sort in the company of a Christian, the Christian, number one, never did that themselves, and number two, simply said something like, "Hey man, I'm sorry, but can you just watch your language here? I would prefer not to." In a non-confrontational, not angry kind of way, just said something like that. Would it not? Some people would get mad, of course. Some people would be angry, just like Demetrius the silversmith was angry and had a riot about it. Some people would do that, sure. But I think a lot of people would be like, okay, sorry, and they might roll their eyes, but whatever. The language would improve to some degree, one way or another. What if Christians simply had a zero tolerance for the blatant disregard for God's righteousness that we see around us? What if we? I don't mean to be rude. I don't mean to be obnoxious about it in your face or any of that stuff. What they call being a Bible thumper, whatever. I don't mean that. I simply mean doing what's right, saying what's right, and not participating in what's wrong. These Christians in Ephesus made that decision. They reached that decision. There were enough of them. It reached a critical mass where the society changed. Now, it changed, and they chose, the bad guys chose to be bad and do bad things and have a riot, and it's no good, and I don't like that. But they noticed. When's the last time our country noticed Christians just going in a straight line serving the Lord? When's the last time somebody's market share was cut noticeably and dramatically because Christians simply did Christianity 101? I think there's room for us here to make a difference. And it starts with us. It starts with us getting serious like they did in Ephesus. Let's get serious. Demetrius got serious. He tries to kill him, right? I mean, it's a violent uprising, and they're shouting, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians." The city is filled with confusion. They rush together. I'm reading out verse 29, dragging with them Gaius and Aristarchus, who were Macedonians who had been Paul's companions in travel. It doesn't say exactly what they did with these guys. It doesn't sound good. But you know what? They were persecuted, whether they were killed or whether they were just dragged around the streets and let go. I don't know. They were persecuted for the sake of the gospel. And there is a great reward in heaven for that, Jesus promises. And I'll take it. I'll take a little bit of suffering now. Paul wants to go out. There's this guy, Alexander, verse 33, that they find out is Jewish, and they kick him out. It doesn't even tell us exactly what he was going to do. And then eventually the riot is disbanded because the town clerk stands up and tells them to go home, and they basically eventually do. But when's the last time Christians just got serious? Do you have a DVD in your house or a streaming account? I don't know. Do people have DVDs anymore? I don't know. We do. Is that old-fashioned? Are DVDs already old-fashioned? Anyway, do you have any that are sinful, that promote sinfulness, that glorify violence and make criminals look like sleek, upset heroes of the whole movie? Do you have TV shows that you watch on whatever Netflix or whatever thing you do that glorify violence, robbing banks, lust, sex outside of marriage, things like that? Do you have those?
just get rid of them. I'm not here to be mad at you and punish you for it. You don't have to come apologize to me about it. Sometimes people do that. That's not necessary. Just get rid of it. Burn it. If it's like literally a thing you can burn, burn it. Just stop having it. Don't have it around. And don't pretend, oh, I just won't watch it anymore. Well, if you won't watch it anymore, why do you want to keep it? It's useless to just have. What if your kid finds it and watches it? What if someone else sees that you have it and thinks, oh, she's got it, he's got it, must be okay for me to have. Just get rid of it. Just cut that old lifestyle off. We should be different. We should be noticeably different. And the people who profit off of sin should notice that they are losing the market share. That's just one way of measuring how serious we are as Christians. Let's be salty. Let's be salt of the earth. Let's have a flavor, and let's be distinct. All right. God bless you. We'll go into chapter 20 here tomorrow. Praise the Lord, guys. Right at noon, I try to post these up. God bless. See you tomorrow.